Joining us on the line is Matt Walsh, nationally recognized writer, blogger, podcaster, and speaker. Of course, he hosts the Matt Walsh Show here at the Daily Wire. He has a brand new book, Church of Cowards, a wake-up call to complacent Christians, is out yesterday and surging up the charts. Matt, good to talk to you, sir.
Hey, Ben. How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's going pretty well. So let's talk about the new book. Obviously, one of the things that we are watching in the United States is a radical rise in the number of people who have declared themselves non-believing. That is the largest group of people in the Democratic Party at this point. So what exactly has happened to church in the United States? Because as church wanes, obviously secularism rises, and with it, this seeming call for more government interventionism, more liberalism. What's happened to church in the United States?
Yeah, I think it's worse. I think it's worse even than the statistics tell us, because if the stats tell us that there are, 80% Christians or something like that, and that number is trending downwards, but how many of them are actually fully believing? If you look at the statistics, the number of Christians who can affirm even the most basic doctrinal points of Christianity, that number is much lower than the 80% figure. I think what's happening is that Christians, religious people in general, I think, are sort of drifting on the tide of the culture and going wherever the culture takes them. That's the complacency I talk about in the book. I think that's the great challenge that we face as a church, is just this willingness, or an unwillingness really, to resist the tide of the culture, and this idea that we have to just go along with whatever the culture says. And of course, the culture says we should be secular, irreligious, faithless, and that's what's happening.
So why exactly is that happening? So that I was always informed, as a religious person myself, I was always informed that the value in religion always lay in sort of its adherence to eternal values and standing up for principles. And yet, I agree with you. I mean, I see it in my own religious community, this attempt to sort of give away those eternal values in favor of some pizza and guitar. This belief that religion is somehow going to earn new converts and fill the pews simply by giving into the prevailing winds of social culture. You see this in the Democratic Party with Pete Buttigieg, who cites the Bible to support pro-abortion positions, for example. Why have so many churches acquiesced in this?
Yeah, I think there are many reasons for it that we could point to. Maybe the fundamental issue is that we focus only on the here and now, and the focus has been in the church generally has been making your life more comfortable. I mean, the most odious versions of that, of course, things like the prosperity gospel and Joel Osteen, and that's the most explicit version. But you find versions of that anywhere you go, it seems like, where it's about getting along with the culture and making friends, and even the virtues, so-called virtues that are promoted, being welcoming, being tolerant, being accepting, which of course aren't virtues at all, but that's all about just getting along with people. And it's the focus is always, it's not about the eternal things. It's about the here and now.
So how do we make religious people less complacent? Because it seems like the easiest way to move along in our culture, Matt, is to be complacent, is to see tolerance as the highest possible value. Whatever floats your boat seems to be the ethic of the day. And of course, here we're talking about the culture. We're not even talking about what government ought to be doing. We're talking about just what you as a person believe is sinful and not sinful. How do we fight back against that when the easiest path to being treated well in today's society is indeed to give up some of those values or to at least be quiet about those values for the sake of popularity?
I think we have to get back to, first of all, basic questions like what is our purpose? Why do we exist? What's the purpose of living? I mean, these are the questions that you're supposed to go to religion for, and religion is supposed to provide an answer for. The questions that religion used to not be afraid to answer, but recently has been. So there needs to be a renewed focus on that, an understanding of what our purpose is, and that's going to involve things like, I think, in the church, calling congregants to sacrifice. There needs to be a moral message. We can't be afraid of the moral message. That's the interesting thing, seems to me, about guys like Bernie Sanders. Why does he resonate so much? Part of the reason is, the entitlement mentality, the stupid millennials, so on and so forth. Like that's part of it. But the other part of it is that he has a moral message. His message is all about moral outrage and all the evil things and terrible things that are happening in the culture. I disagree with his prescriptions to remedy those evils, but at least he has a moral message. Whereas I think for among conservatives and Christians, and we've become afraid of making that moral point.
So what do you think is the moral message of Christianity that needs to be heard in today's culture? Because you're talking to a lot of people who read this book are going to be people who are already committed Christians, already committed religious people. But let's say you're talking to somebody secular. Why should they become a committed religious person, as opposed to simply sort of drifting along on the waves here?
I think one of the most important moral messages is about the dignity of the human person. That we are human beings, have value, that we matter, we have dignity, and you don't find that in the broader culture. What you find in the culture, that the things that are celebrated in the culture are the things that degrade the human person. And nobody's really happy with that, and no one feels happy. And I think that's why there's so much depression and drug use and everything, and the suicide epidemic. All these things are wrapped up in it. So I think that can obviously appeal to people. That's a message that can appeal to someone, even who's not religious, that you have dignity, you have value.
Well, Matt Walsh, his new book is Church of Cowards, a wake-up call to complacent Christians. It is out yesterday and surging up the charts. Matt, really appreciate your time. Good to talk to you, sir.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it.
I hope you enjoyed that clip from The Ben Shapiro Show. If you did, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you stay up to date on all of our future content.